Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, watching the stars drift past the main screen. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, heading toward the Kepler 442 system. It was supposed to be a simple mission. Look around, take some pictures, collect data, and head home. Nothing exciting ever happened on these exploration trips. The Defender was huge. 800 people lived and worked inside its metal walls. Jake had been the captain for 5 years now, and he knew every corner of the ship. The crew trusted him, and he trusted them. Dr. Lisa Hart ran the science department, always excited about finding new things in space. Colonel Ryan Blake commanded the Marines, keeping everyone safe if trouble came looking for them. Jake walked over to the sensor station where Lieutenant Tom Brady was watching the screens. Tom was young but good at his job. He could spot things in space that others missed. "Anything interesting out there, Tom?" Jake asked. Tom looked up from his screen. "Actually, yes, sir. I'm picking up some strange energy readings from the 4th planet. Really strong signals, but I can't figure out what's making them." Dr. Hart heard this and came over quickly. She loved mysteries, especially ones in space. "What kind of energy? Can you show me the data?" Tom brought up the readings on the main screen. The numbers were dancing all over the place. Lisa studied them for a moment, then frowned. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "These readings are off the charts. Whatever is down there is using more power than our entire ship." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In space, strange things usually meant dangerous things. Could it be natural, some kind of weird storm or volcanic activity? Lisa shook her head. "No way, this is artificial. Someone built whatever is making these signals." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. Humans had been exploring space for over a century, and they had never found another intelligent species. If something artificial was on that planet, it meant humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Colonel Blake stepped forward. He was a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. "Captain, I recommend we keep our distance. We don't know what we're dealing with here." Jake nodded. Blake was right to be careful. "Tom, can you get a better look at the planet without getting too close?" "Yes, sir." Switching to long-range scanners now. The main screen changed to show the planet below. It looked normal at first, just another rocky world with no atmosphere. But then Tom enhanced the image and everyone gasped. The planet's surface was covered with massive structures. They looked like cities, but not human cities. The buildings were tall and curved, made from some kind of black material that seemed to absorb light. Strange patterns of energy flowed between the structures like rivers of electricity. "My God," Lisa whispered. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Jake studied the alien city. "How long do you think it's been there?" "Based on the construction, I'd say thousands of years, maybe longer. This civilization is old, Captain. Much older than ours." Before Jake could respond, Tom's console started, beeping frantically. "Captain, I'm detecting movement. Something big is coming up from the planet." The main screen switched to show space around them. At first, there was nothing. Then, like ghosts becoming solid, ships began to appear. They were sleek and black, shaped like blades cutting through space. The largest one was 3 times the size of the Defender. "Where did they come from?" Blake demanded. "I don't know," Tom said, his voice tight with fear. "They just appeared, like they were invisible, and then decided to show themselves." Jake's mind raced. These aliens had technology that could make ships invisible. That was far beyond anything humans could do. "Lisa, can you try to communicate with them?" Lisa ran to her station and started working. "I'm sending out standard greeting signals on all frequencies, mathematical sequences, prime numbers, anything that might show we're intelligent and peaceful." The alien ships moved closer. They flew in perfect formation like they were connected by invisible strings. No human pilot could fly that precisely. Jake opened a channel to the entire ship. "This is the captain. We have made contact with an alien civilization. All personnel remain at your stations and stay calm. This is the most important moment in human history." The response from the aliens came quickly, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of trying to talk, they opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the alien ships. They hit the defender's shields and overloaded them instantly. The ship shook like it was being torn apart. "Shields are down," Tom shouted over the noise. "Hull breaches on decks 5 through 8. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The defenders' weapons were the best humanity had ever built. Laser cannons and missile launchers that could destroy asteroids opened up on the alien ships. The weapons hit their targets directly, but nothing happened. The alien hulls didn't even show scorch marks. Another wave of energy beams hit the defender. This time they cut deep into the ship's hull. Explosions echoed through the corridors as systems failed and people screamed. Colonel Blake's voice came over the radio from the Marine deck. "Captain, we've lost 30% of our Marines. The energy beams are cutting through our armor like it's paper." Jake felt sick. His ship was being destroyed, and his weapons couldn't even scratch the enemy. "Lisa, anything on communications?" Picking up their transmissions," Lisa said, working frantically at her console. "The computer is trying to translate, but their language is completely different from anything human." Another blast hit the ship. The lights went out for a moment, then came back on dim and flickering. Jake knew they only had minutes before the defender was completely destroyed. "Tom, can we run?" "Engines are damaged, but I think I can get us moving. Not fast, but maybe fast enough." "Do it. Full power to engines." The defender limped away from the alien ships, trailing smoke and debris. Jake expected them to follow and finish the job, but they didn't. They just watched as the human ship fled into deep space. Hours later, when they were far enough away to feel somewhat safe, Jake gathered his senior officers in the damaged conference room. The ship was a mess. They had lost over 600 people and the survivors were crowded into the emergency pods. "Report," Jake said quietly. Lisa looked exhausted. "I managed to decode some of their transmissions. It's not good news, Captain. They weren't trying to communicate with us. They were scanning us, studying us like we were insects." "What did they learn?" "Everything. Our technology, our biology, our location. They know exactly where Earth is now." Colonel Blake slammed his fist on the table. "We led them right to our home world," Lisa continued. "There's more. From what I could translate, they call themselves the Vorthak. They're not explorers like us, they're conquerors. They've destroyed dozens of other civilizations." Jake felt the weight of what she was saying. "Are you telling me they're going to attack Earth?" "According to their communications, Earth is already marked for something they call cleansing. They don't see us as people, Captain. To them, we're just another infestation to be eliminated." The room went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had just made first contact with an alien species, and that species wanted to wipe them out completely. Jake stood up slowly. "How long do we have?" "Based on their technology, maybe 6 months before they can organize a full invasion fleet." Jake looked around at his surviving officers. "Then we need to get home and warn everyone. Humanity is about to face the fight of its life, and we're not ready for it." The defender limped toward Earth, carrying the most terrible news in human history. Behind them, the Vorthak ships disappeared back into invisibility, already planning humanity's destruction. 6 months had passed since the defender limped back to Earth with news of the alien threat. The planet buzzed with activity as humanity prepared for war. Every shipyard worked day and night building new warships. Every factory switched to making weapons and armor. Every person on Earth knew that their survival depended on the next few months. General Patricia Wood stood in the war room deep beneath the Pentagon, staring at the massive display screen that showed the entire solar system. Red dots marked where human defense fleets waited. Blue dots showed the locations of the colonies that needed protection. She had spent her entire career preparing for wars between human nations. Nothing had prepared her for this. The first reports came in at 800 hours on a Tuesday morning. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner was eating breakfast on Mars Colony when the alarms started screaming. He dropped his coffee and ran to the command center where chaos had taken over. "Report!" Alex shouted over the noise. Sergeant Kelly Price looked up from her console. Her face was pale. "Sir, we have multiple contacts coming out of hyperspace, 12 different locations around the outer colonies." Alex felt his stomach drop. How many ships? At each location? Over 200, sir. The numbers didn't make sense. Humanity's entire space fleet had only 400 ships, and most of them were small patrol vessels. The aliens were attacking with more than twice that number at each location. On the main screen, they watched as the alien ships appeared around New Geneva, humanity's largest colony. The planet was home to 50 million people who had spent 3 generations building a new world. Within minutes, beams of energy were raining down from space. Alex grabbed the radio. All units, this is Turner, battle stations. Prepare for ground assault. But as they watched the screen, it became clear that there wouldn't be a ground assault. The Vorthak ship simply moved into orbit and began systematically destroying everything on the planet's surface. Cities that had taken decades to build were melted into slag in minutes. Corporal Danny Hughes, the unit's tech specialist, was monitoring alien communications. Sir, I'm picking up their signals. They're not trying to capture anything. They're just destroying everything. How long until New Geneva is completely destroyed? Alex asked. Danny looked at his readings. At this rate, maybe 6 hours. Alex felt sick. 50 million people would be dead by evening, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. The human defense fleet around New Geneva was fighting desperately, but their weapons still couldn't penetrate the alien shields. Back on Earth, General Woods watched 12 colonies die at the same time. The reports were all the same. The Vorthak ships would appear, destroy everything in orbit, then methodically burn the planet's surface until nothing was left alive. General, her aide called out, we're getting a transmission from Admiral Grant's fleet near Jupiter. Woods grabbed the radio. Admiral Frank Grant commanded humanity's largest battle group, over 60 warships that represented the best technology Earth could build. Patricia, we're engaging the enemy fleet now. Grant's voice crackled through the static. They have about 300 ships, but we're going to give them a fight. On the main screen, Woods watched the battle unfold. The human ships attacked, in perfect formation, just like they had trained for years. Their missiles and energy weapons lit up space as they struck the Vorthak vessels. For a moment, Woods felt hope. The human fleet was fighting well, working together like a machine. Then the alien ships began to change. The Vorthak vessels seemed to shift and blur, becoming transparent. The human weapons passed right through them like they were firing at ghosts. Then the alien ships became solid again and returned fire. The human fleet was destroyed in less than 10 minutes. All ships lost, the communications officer reported quietly. No survivors detected. Woods closed her eyes. Grant had been her friend for 20 years. Now he was gone, along with 12,000 of humanity's best sailors. On Mars, Alex Turner was preparing his Marines for the battle he knew was coming. His unit included some of the best soldiers humanity had ever trained. They wore powered armor that could stop tank rounds and carried weapons that could punch through steel walls. Listen up, Alex told his squad. We've seen what their ships can do. We know their ground forces are coming, but we're not going to make it easy for them. The Marines had prepared the colony's mining tunnels as defensive positions. Miles of underground passages had been turned into a fortress. If the aliens wanted Mars, they would have to dig them out, tunnel by tunnel. The first Vorthak landing, ships came down like black tears falling from the sky. They landed near the main colony dome and opened up to release their ground forces. Alex got his first look at the enemy through his rifle scope. The Vorthak soldiers wore mechanical suits that made them look like walking tanks. They were tall, maybe 8 feet, and moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons looked like metal sticks, but Alex knew they were deadly. Fire, Alex ordered. The human defenders opened up with everything they had. Machine guns, rocket launchers, and energy rifles all focused on the alien ground force. The weapons hit their targets directly, but the Vorthak soldiers kept walking forward like nothing had happened. Then the alien soldiers raised their stick weapons and fired back. Beams of energy lanced out and hit the defensive walls. The concrete and steel simply disappeared, turned into dust by the alien weapons. Fall back to the tunnels, Alex shouted. The Marines retreated underground where they had prepared ambush positions. Alex's plan was simple. Make the aliens come into the tunnels where their superior technology would be less useful. Force them to fight in close quarters where human determination might make the difference. But when the Vorthak soldiers reached the tunnel entrances, they didn't come inside. Instead, they simply walked through the solid rock walls like they weren't there. Sergeant Kelly Price was waiting in ambush when an alien soldier materialized inside the rock wall next to her. She emptied her rifle at point-blank range, but the bullets passed through the creature like it was made of smoke. Then it became solid again and fired its weapon. Kelly's powered armor, designed to stop anything short of a direct artillery hit, simply disintegrated around her. The battle for Mars became a nightmare. The human defenders couldn't hit enemies that could become intangible at will. The aliens could walk through walls, ignore human weapons, and their own weapons could unmake matter itself. Alex found himself alone in a tunnel, his squad dead around him. An alien soldier stood 10 feet away, its weapon pointed at his chest. Alex fired his remaining bullets knowing they would do nothing. The alien tilted its head slightly, as if curious about human stubbornness. Then it pulled the trigger. Alex woke up 3 days later in a medical bay on Earth. He had been found unconscious but alive in the tunnels after the aliens left. Mars colony was gone, reduced to a crater in the planet's surface. General Woods visited him in the hospital. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the past week. "How many colonies did we lose?" Alex asked. "All of them," Woods said quietly. 12 worlds gone, over 200 million people dead. Alex stared at the ceiling. "Our weapons didn't even slow them down. It's like trying to fight gods with stone knives." Woods nodded. "I've been talking to our scientists. Dr. Marcus Chen thinks he might have some ideas, but he needs time to study the alien technology. The problem is, we don't have time." "What do you mean?" Woods showed him a data pad with long-range sensor. "Readings. This is the main Vorthak fleet. 10,000 ships heading straight for Earth. They'll be here in 6 weeks." Alex felt the weight of those numbers. 10,000 ships. Earth's remaining fleet had maybe 200 vessels, and they had already proven useless against Vorthak technology. "What's the plan?" Alex asked. "Honestly, I don't know. Every conventional strategy is suicide. We need to find another way to fight them, something they won't expect." Alex thought about his dead Marines, good soldiers who had died fighting an enemy they couldn't even touch. "Maybe that's the answer. We need to stop fighting conventionally." Woods looked at him with interest. "What do you mean?" "The aliens study their enemies, right? They know how human military forces operate. But what if we don't operate like a military force? What if we fight like something they've never seen before?" Woods was quiet for a moment. "You're talking about throwing away everything we know about warfare." "Everything we know about warfare just got 200 million people killed," Alex said. "Maybe it's time to try something completely different." Outside the hospital window, they could see the lights of Earth's cities. In 6 weeks, those lights might be extinguished forever. Humanity needed a miracle, or they needed to become something the Vorthak had never encountered before. The question was, could they figure out how to do it before the enemy arrived? Dr. Marcus Chen hadn't slept in 3 days. His laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains was filled with pieces of alien technology recovered from the destroyed colonies. Every surface was covered with black metal fragments, strange crystal, formations and devices that hummed with unknown energy. Marcus picked up a piece of Vorthak armor and turned it over in his hands. The material felt warm and seemed to shift color when he moved it. His team had been testing it with every tool they had, trying to understand how it worked. "Doctor, come look at this," called his assistant, Dr. Jennifer Walsh. She was standing, over a microscope, studying a sample of the alien metal. Marcus walked over and peered through the scope. What he saw made him blink in surprise. The metal's structure was perfectly organized, every atom in exactly the right place. It was like looking at a machine built on the molecular level. "It's too perfect," Jennifer said. "Look at the pattern. Every piece of their technology follows the exact same mathematical formula." Marcus studied the readings on the computer screen. Jennifer was right. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also completely predictable. Every device they had examined followed rigid rules with no variation. "They don't improvise," Marcus said slowly. "Their technology is like a song that only knows one tune." Meanwhile, on the ruined surface of Titan, Captain Sue Martinez was learning the same lesson in a much more dangerous way. She led a small team of soldiers who had been stranded on the moon when the Vorthak attacked. For 2 weeks they had been hiding in the colony's ruins, watching the alien forces. Sue crouched behind a broken wall, watching a group of Vorthak soldiers patrol the area. They moved in perfect formation, never varying their route or timing. Every patrol followed exactly the same path, taking exactly the same amount of time. "They're like robots," whispered Corporal Tim Jackson, who was lying next to her. "Same route, same speed, same everything." Sue had noticed this too. The aliens were incredibly dangerous, but they never did anything unexpected. Their patrols were predictable. Their response to threats followed the same pattern every time. "I have an idea," Sue said. "What if we attack them in a way they're not programmed for?" That night, Sue's team tried something no human military unit had ever attempted. Instead of attacking the aliens directly, they started moving things around. They moved rocks to block patrol routes. They redirected water pipes to flood certain areas. They even moved furniture to create obstacles in unexpected places. The Vorthak soldiers reached the first obstacle and stopped. They stood there for several minutes, as if trying to process what they were seeing. Finally, they called for support and waited while engineers came to clear the path. "It worked," Tim said in amazement. "We confused them." Sue smiled. "They're not used to enemies who change the environment instead of attacking directly. Let's see how they handle something even more unexpected." Back on Earth, Sergeant Pete Richardson was working on humanity's most desperate project. His laboratory was filled with bacteria samples from every corner of the planet. He had been searching for something that could interfere with alien technology. Pete had been a microbiologist before the war started. Now he was trying to turn Earth's smallest life forms into weapons. The idea had come to him while studying reports from the battlefields. Human weapons couldn't penetrate Vorthak shields, but what if they could use something the aliens had never encountered? The quantum processes that power their technology require perfect conditions, Pete explained to his team. But bacteria don't care about perfect conditions. They adapt and change and interfere with everything around them. His team had been testing thousands of different bacteria against fragments of alien technology. Most did nothing, but a few species seemed to make the alien devices malfunction in strange ways. "Look at this," said Dr. Rachel Stone, pointing to a test chamber. Inside, a piece of Vorthak equipment was sparking and changing colors randomly. "The bacteria are interfering with its quantum field somehow." Pete studied the readings. "The aliens probably sterilize every planet they conquer. They've never had to deal with biological interference before." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Private Amy Wilson had been captured during the battle for Mars and taken to a Vorthak research facility. For 3 weeks, she had been a prisoner while the aliens studied human biology and psychology. Amy was young, only 19, but she was tough and smart. She had grown up on a farm and knew how to fix things with whatever was available. While the aliens studied her, she was studying them right back. The Vorthak researchers were methodical and precise. They followed exact procedures for everything. They tested her reflexes at the same time every day. They asked the same questions in the same order. They even fed her at precisely scheduled intervals. But Amy noticed something important. When she did something they didn't expect, they had to stop and consult their computers. If she answered a question differently than anticipated, they needed time to process the new information. One day, Amy tried an experiment. When the aliens came to test her reflexes, she deliberately responded in random ways. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes not at all. The alien researchers became visibly confused. Their computers couldn't create patterns from her chaotic responses. That night, Amy managed to escape. The alien security systems were designed to stop prisoners who followed predictable escape patterns. They couldn't handle someone who made completely random choices about which direction to run. Amy made it back to Earth carrying the most important intelligence of the war. She was debriefed by General Woods personally. They study everything, Amy reported. Before they attack a planet, they spend months learning how that species fights, how they think, how they organize their societies. But they only prepare for logical responses. General Woods leaned forward. What do you mean? They expect their enemies to do smart things, logical things. They have programs that can predict what a rational military commander will do in any situation, but they can't predict crazy. Dr. Chen was called to the meeting. When he heard Amy's report, everything clicked into place. That's why they keep winning, Chen said. Every civilization they've conquered probably fought the same way. Organized fleets, coordinated attacks, logical strategies. The Vorthak have programs that can counter any rational military response. But humans aren't always rational, General Woods said slowly. Exactly. When we're desperate, we do crazy things. We improvise. We make decisions based on emotion instead of logic. Their computers can't predict that. Amy nodded enthusiastically. When I escaped, I didn't follow any escape plan. I just ran in whatever direction felt right at the moment. Their security systems kept trying to predict where I was going, but I didn't know myself. General Woods stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of the city where millions of people waited for news about the approaching alien fleet. So you're telling me that our best weapon against the most advanced military force in the galaxy is to act completely insane? Not insane, Dr. Chen corrected. Unpredictable, creative, human. Over the next few days, the plan began to take shape. Instead of trying to match Vorthak technology, Earth would fight with pure human chaos. They would use Pete's biological weapons not to destroy alien ships but to confuse their systems. They would follow Sue's example and attack in ways that made no military sense. They would turn humanity's greatest weakness into their greatest strength. Every other species they conquered probably tried to fight smart, General Woods said to her staff. We're going to fight stupid. So stupid that their computers can't figure out what we're doing. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, recovered from his injuries, was put in charge of training the new human forces. His job was to teach soldiers to forget everything they knew about proper military tactics. From now on, we don't follow plans, Alex told a room full of confused officers. We don't use proper formations, we don't do anything that makes sense, because the moment we start acting like a normal military, we're dead. The room was quiet as the officers processed this information. Finally, one young captain raised her hand. Sir, how do we coordinate an attack if nobody knows what anyone else is doing? Alex smiled. We don't coordinate, that's the point. We let chaos be our strategy. With only 2 weeks until the Vorthak fleet arrived at Earth, humanity began preparing for the strangest military campaign in history. They were going to save their species by acting completely unpredictable. The Vorthak fleet arrived at Earth exactly when their computers predicted they would. 10,000 black ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving in perfect formation toward humanity's home planet. Admiral Kate Phillips watched them approach from the bridge of the rebuilt Earth battleship Guardian. Kate had been given command of humanity's defense fleet just 1 week ago. She had fought in 3 colonial wars and commanded ships for 15 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Her fleet consisted of 200 ships, most of them hastily converted civilian vessels. Admiral, the enemy fleet is taking standard siege positions around the planet, reported Commander Bob Hayes from the sensor station. Kate nodded. According to captured Vorthak data, this was exactly what they always did. The aliens would surround a planet, eliminate orbital defenses, then systematically destroy everything on the surface. It had worked on dozens of worlds, but today would be different. All ships, this is Admiral Phillips, Kate announced over the fleet communications. Remember, we are not following any battle plan. Each captain is free to engage the enemy however they think best. Trust your instincts, not your training, Captain. Laura Thompson, commanding the converted cargo ship Wildcat, received the message with mixed feelings. Laura had been a merchant captain before the war, hauling supplies between colonies. Her ship was loaded with Pete Richardson's quantum bacteria, contained in special pods that would scatter the microorganisms throughout space. You heard the Admiral, Laura told her crew. "We're not trying to destroy their ships. We're just trying to confuse them." Instead of attacking the Vorthak fleet directly, Laura's ship began flying in seemingly random patterns throughout the solar system. Behind them, they left clouds of bacteria that would interfere with alien quantum technology. To any logical observer, the Wildcat appeared to be running away in panic. The Vorthak tactical computers tried to predict where the human ship was going, but Laura wasn't following any plan. When she felt like turning left, she turned left. When she wanted to speed up, she did that too. Her decisions were based on nothing more than gut feeling. Commander Steve Parker led a squadron of modified fighters in the second phase of the attack. His ships were equipped with weapons that Dr. Chen's team had specially designed to be as chaotic as possible. Instead of firing in precise patterns, the weapons released energy in completely random bursts. "Target their shield generators," Steve ordered his pilots. "But don't aim carefully. Just shoot in their general direction and let the chaos do the work." The human fighters opened fire on the nearest Vorthak ships. Their weapons created wild, unpredictable energy patterns that struck the alien shields at random intervals. The Vorthak shield systems, designed to counter organized attacks, began to malfunction as they tried to adapt to patterns that didn't exist. On one of the larger alien ships, the Vorthak shield technicians watched their displays with growing confusion. The human weapons weren't following any recognizable attack pattern. The energy signatures changed constantly, making it impossible for their adaptive systems to find an effective counter. For the first time in their military history, Vorthak technology was failing to adapt to an enemy's weapons. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, Colonel Nick Davis was preparing for the ground battle. His forces were positioned around major cities, but they weren't following any defensive doctrine that had ever been taught in military school. "Remember," Nick told his commanders over the radio, "we don't hold strategic positions, we don't follow retreat protocols, we don't do anything that makes military sense. If you feel like attacking, attack. If you want to run away, run away. Just make sure the aliens can't predict what you're doing." The first Vorthak landing ships came down near New York City. They landed in the positions their computers had calculated would be most effective for controlling the surrounding area. But when the alien ground forces emerged, they found something they hadn't expected. The human defenders weren't where they were supposed to be. Instead of manning prepared defensive positions, they were scattered throughout the city in small groups. Some were on rooftops, others in subway tunnels, and still others in shopping malls. Lieutenant Sarah Kim led a squad of Marines who had set up their position in a children's playground. When the alien forces approached the area, Sarah's team opened fire from behind swing sets and slides. The attack lasted only 30 seconds before they disappeared into the city's maze of buildings. The Vorthak ground commander tried to coordinate a response, but his tactical computer couldn't process what had happened. The attack had come from a location that served no strategic purpose. The humans had gained no military advantage from their position, and they had retreated before the aliens could counterattack. It made no sense. Across the city, similar scenes played out dozens of times. Human forces would attack from impossible locations, retreat before the aliens could respond, then attack again from somewhere completely different. A group of engineers attacked a Vorthak patrol from inside a sewage tunnel. A squad of pilots abandoned their aircraft and fought on foot from inside a shopping center. The most audacious attack came from Corporal Ben Foster and his team of combat engineers. Instead of trying to destroy a Vorthak command ship, they decided to board it and cause as much confusion as possible. Ben had been an electrician before joining the military. He understood systems and circuits better than most soldiers understood weapons. His plan was simple: get inside the alien ship and introduce random variables into their computer systems. "We're not trying to take control of the ship," Ben explained to his team as they prepared to launch. "We're just going to mess with it until it doesn't work anymore." Ben's team used a captured Vorthak transport to approach the command ship. The alien security systems detected them, but the humans were broadcasting surrender signals and appeared to be prisoners being returned to the ship. The Vorthak computers processed this information and allowed the transport to dock. Once inside, Ben's team spread out through the ship's corridors. They carried bags of equipment that had been specially designed by Dr. Chen's research team. Instead of explosives, they planted devices that would introduce chaos into the ship's quantum systems. Ben found the ship's main computer core and went to work. He didn't try to hack into the system or reprogram it. Instead, he simply started connecting random wires to random circuits. He attached Earth bacteria cultures to quantum processors. He even stuck a piece of chewing gum onto a critical control junction. The Vorthak ship's computer systems tried to process these random inputs, but they couldn't make sense of the chaotic data. The ship's matter displacement system began malfunctioning first. Parts of the vessel started phasing in and out of different dimensions randomly. Then the weapons systems began firing at mathematical impossibilities. Energy beams shot out of the ship and curved back on themselves. The gravity generators created localized fields that pulled in random directions. Finally, the ship's quantum core couldn't handle the chaos anymore. Instead of exploding, it simply stopped making sense. The massive Vorthak command vessel began breaking apart as its own technology turned against itself. The sight of their most advanced warship destroying itself through pure confusion sent shockwaves through the Vorthak fleet. For the first time in their military history, they had encountered an enemy they couldn't understand. Admiral Kate Phillips watched the command ship tear itself apart and smiled. "All ships continue random attack patterns. Don't let them figure out what we're doing." In space around Earth, the battle continued to rage. But for the first time since humanity had encountered the Vorthak, the aliens were losing. Their superior technology was useless against an enemy that refused to follow the rules of logical warfare. The tide of the war was finally turning. And it was turning because humanity had embraced the one thing they did better than any other species in the galaxy: beautiful creative chaos. The news of the command ship's destruction spread through the Vorthak fleet like a virus. For over 1,000 years, their military had never experienced a defeat. Every species they encountered had fought logically, predictably, and had been crushed by superior Vorthak technology. But the humans were different. Admiral Kate Phillips watched her displays as confusion rippled through the alien fleet. The Vorthak ships, which had maintained perfect formation since arriving, began breaking apart into smaller groups. Some moved closer to Earth, others pulled back, and a few simply stopped moving entirely. "They don't know what to do," reported Commander Bob Hayes from his sensor station. "Their fleet coordination is falling apart." Kate smiled grimly. "Good. Let's make it worse. All ships increase random attack patterns. I want chaos everywhere." Captain Laura Thompson received the order with enthusiasm. Her ship Wildcat had been releasing quantum bacteria throughout the solar system for hours, and the effects were starting to show. Vorthak ships that passed through the contaminated areas began experiencing system failures. Their perfect technology was being undone by microscopic Earth life forms. "Captain, I'm reading massive failures in their phase shift systems," reported her science officer. "The bacteria are interfering with their quantum processes." Laura watched as several Vorthak ships tried to become intangible and failed. Instead of phasing cleanly through space, they flickered in and out of reality like broken holograms. Some got stuck halfway between dimensions, their hulls twisted into impossible shapes. In space near Mars, Commander Steve Parker led his fighter squadron in what military historians would later call the most chaotic battle in human history. His pilots had abandoned all formation flying and were attacking the Vorthak fleet individually, each one making up tactics as they went along. Lieutenant Jenny Brooks was flying her fighter in loops around a Vorthak cruiser, firing her weapons at random intervals. The alien ship's defensive systems kept trying to predict her next move, but Jenny wasn't planning ahead. She was simply flying however felt right at the moment. "This is actually kind of fun," Jenny reported over the radio. "It's like playing a video game where you make up the rules as you go." The Vorthak cruiser's computer systems overloaded, trying to track her erratic flight pattern. Its weapons fired at where it calculated she would be. But Jenny was never where logic said she should be. Finally, the ship's tactical computer crashed completely, leaving the cruiser defenseless. On Earth's surface, the ground battle had become even stranger. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez found himself leading the most unusual military unit in human history. His force included regular soldiers, but also civilians who had volunteered to fight. There was a chef named Carlos who fought with kitchen knives. An accountant called Linda used homemade explosives made from household chemicals. A group of teenagers fought using strategies they had learned from video games. "Sir, the aliens are retreating from downtown," reported Sergeant Mike Johnson over the radio. Sam looked through his binoculars at the Vorthak ground forces. The alien soldiers were standing in a group, apparently waiting for orders that never came. Their commanders had tried to respond to the human attacks, but every tactical program they ran produced error messages. "They can't process what we're doing," Sam realized. "Their computers are designed to fight organized armies, not whatever this is." The teenage fighters had just attacked a Vorthak patrol using tactics borrowed from online games. They had split into 3 groups, attacked from different directions at once, then vanished into the city's buildings. The alien forces tried to pursue them, but the kids knew every shortcut and hiding place in their neighborhood. "This is Tommy," came a young voice over the radio. "We just took out another patrol. They don't know how to fight kids who grew up playing war games." Sam shook his head in amazement. "Keep doing whatever you're doing. It's working." In space, the psychological effect on the Vorthak fleet was becoming critical. Admiral Kate Phillips watched as more alien ships began withdrawing from battle. They weren't retreating in an organized fashion. They were simply leaving in random directions. "Admiral, we're intercepting Vorthak communications," reported the intelligence officer. "Their fleet commanders are requesting new tactical programs from their home world. They're saying their current systems cannot process human behavior patterns." Kate felt a surge of hope. "How long until they get a response?" "Based on the distance to their territory, at least 6 months." 6 months. That would give humanity time to prepare for the next attack, time to build more ships and train more chaotic fighters. But Kate had a feeling there wouldn't be a next attack. The turning point came when the largest Vorthak battleship, a massive vessel that served as the fleet's primary tactical coordinator, simply shut down. Its computer systems had been trying to analyze human behavior for hours, running millions of calculations per second to find patterns in the chaos. But human chaos had no patterns. Every time the computer thought it had found a rule, the humans would break it. Every prediction failed because humans kept making decisions based on emotion, instinct, and pure stubbornness instead of logic. Finally, the ship's main computer reached a conclusion that no Vorthak machine had ever reached before. The enemy was not logical. The computer couldn't function when faced with an opponent that defied mathematical analysis. The battleship's systems crashed in sequence, starting with the tactical computers and spreading to life support. Within minutes, the most advanced warship in the Vorthak fleet was drifting powerless through space. Across the fleet, similar failures were occurring. Ships that had conquered civilizations throughout the galaxy were being defeated by farmers with improvised weapons, teenagers with video game tactics, and pilots who flew like they were having fun instead of fighting a war. The end came suddenly. The remaining Vorthak ships began broadcasting surrender signals, but even their surrender was confused. They didn't know how to surrender to an enemy they couldn't understand. Admiral Kate Phillips found herself in the strange position of accepting the surrender of a vastly superior alien fleet. "This is Admiral Phillips of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw from Earth space immediately." The response came back in broken human language. "We comply. Humans are unpredictable enemy. Cannot fight unpredictable enemy. We withdraw." One by one, the surviving Vorthak ships jumped to hyperspace and fled the solar system. The invasion that was supposed to wipe out humanity had been defeated by pure human chaos. 3 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a new ship, the UES Discovery. He had been promoted to admiral and given command of humanity's first diplomatic mission to the galaxy. His job was to make contact with the civilizations that had been enslaved by the Vorthak Empire. "Admiral, we're approaching the Centauri system," reported his navigation officer. "The former Vorthak colony should be just ahead." Jake looked at the main screen as a blue and green planet appeared. Intelligence reports suggested that the alien colonists had overthrown their Vorthak overseers shortly after news of the Earth battle reached them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," said the communications officer. "Put it on screen." A strange alien face appeared on the main display. The being had 4 eyes and purple skin, but its expression was clearly one of hope. "Human ships," the alien said in accented English. "We have heard of your victory. Can you teach us your fighting methods? Can you show us how to be unpredictable, like humans?" Jake smiled. "We'd be happy to help. But first let me ask you something. Do any of your people like to play games? Do you have anyone who makes decisions based on how they feel instead of what makes sense?" The alien's 4 eyes lit up. "Yes, we have such individuals. Our leaders always said they were troublemakers." "Not anymore," Jake said. "Now they're your secret weapons." Over the following years, humanity became the galaxy's greatest teacher of creative chaos. Species across the galaxy learned to embrace their own version of unpredictability. Artists became military advisors. Children helped plan battle strategies. Anyone who had ever been called crazy or illogical suddenly became valuable. The Vorthak Empire, built on rigid logic and predictable technology, crumbled as rebellion spread from world to world. Their computer-controlled fleets couldn't handle enemies who fought with imagination instead of doctrine. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, now a general, established the galaxy's first school of creative warfare on a liberated world near the Galactic core. Students came from dozens of species to learn the most powerful military doctrine in the galaxy: how to be beautifully, chaotically, impossibly human. The secret, Alex told his first class of alien students, is not to think like a soldier. Think like an artist or a child or someone who has never heard of military strategy. The moment you start making sense, you've already lost. And across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear for centuries began to laugh, to play, to fight, with joy instead of desperation. They learned that the greatest weapon in the universe wasn't technology or firepower. It was the courage to be unpredictable. Humanity had not just won a war. They had taught the galaxy how to be free.